Why hasn't Liam Lawson been chosen for an F1 seat in 2024? Breaking news podcast. That's correct. We are here to talk about the sadness for Liam Lawson, but the happiness for Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo, who have been locked in, chosen for Alpha Tauri for 2024, Tommy. Not a surprise, considering all the rumours that have been going around, but it's finally locked in. There was a part of me that was like, are Alpha Tauri just going to wait a little bit longer? No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. Personally, I think they should have, but you can see why they've done it here of all places. Obviously, Yuki Tsunoda's home race and having that positive story of keeping him on board.
They don't have to do it now, apart from it just looking and feeling nice for PR and marketing. They must feel a level of confidence where they just genuinely don't want to take the punt with Liam at the moment. I know that it obviously feels nice, but they don't have to do it now.
I think logically it makes more sense because you're choosing between three drivers. Yuki Tsunoda's been in the whole year. You've had Daniel Ricciardo in for 2 rounds and a practice session, and Liam Lawson in for 3 rounds. So you've not really had time to assess. Of course, Lawson has done a brilliant job, and that's why there's a lot of debate of whether he should have got the seat or not. But it's so early to be making that call. But clearly, Alpha Tauri and the whole Honda connection, they wanted it done in Japan.
So first and foremost, let's talk about Yuki Tsunoda and kind of figure out why he's been locked in for 2024. I don't think this is going to be a difficult discussion because I don't think there's doubts on either of our sides that Yuki Tsunoda has been good this year. I think what's probably been the biggest low light, or not low light, but just something that's maybe given you in particular, Tommy, as a Yuki Tsunoda stan, some perhaps doubt is how quickly Liam Lawson has come into this team and appear to be on the same level as Yuki. Because realistically, his results in a car that has been one of, if not the slowest car at a lot of weekends, especially at the start of the year, he was still producing results that 11th, a lot of 11th, but apart from that, there hasn't been too much to really go against Yuki, I would say.
No, he's had the odd wobble where he's had maybe a difficult race. And I think he's actually also very unfortunate that he's had the difficult races as well when Liam has been alongside him. If you look at the races that Liam Lawson's been in the car since the Dutch Grand Prix, Lawson finished 13th in the Dutch Grand Prix. Tsunoda was 15th, but Tsunoda was having a brilliant race, a lot of it, and then had a pretty wash strategy. Then in Monza, he didn't even make the start of the race, so we couldn't even get to see how he'd do. And then in Singapore, he got punted out also at the start of the race, and we didn't get to see how he's done.
In qualifying.
Exactly. You can definitely say that Lawson has been on Tsunoda's level. We've seen it in qualifying. He's done a very good job, and Lawson's had that consistency. But we've not really seen them go proper toe-to-toe and see who's properly, the quicker driver, really, at the moment.
Now, I mentioned about Yuki's positions. He has 3 points in this championship. Liam has 2 after Singapore, and yet Yuki's first 5 results were 11th, 11th, 10th, 10th, 11th, and we were absolutely gassing him up as this team leader, consistency, but he just doesn't have the points to prove it. I just want to bring that up just purely from a recency bias. People will go, yeah, Yuki's not done much, blah, 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 but you look at the season as a whole, and he still does deserve to be in Formula One. I'm going to force you now, Tommy, to give me some cons about Yuki Tsunoda. As much as you are a stan, what would be the biggest con in your eyes for Yuki Tsunoda and perhaps not getting that seat next year? But of course, it's been locked in for him.
I'd say the con is that he still has an absolutely awful race in him where it goes not just wrong, but like spectacularly wrong, where when it goes wrong for him, it seems like he will finish dead last with about 6 penalties rather than just having an off weekend. So that seems to be Yuki's downfall. He's still got that race in him occasionally, but that's a lot less than it used to be, particularly at the start. It's not really a con now because he's changed it a bit, but if you look at the start of his career, and maybe it is a con if you compare it to Lawson, they couldn't have had more polar opposite starts where Tsunoda looked incredibly quick but very crash happy and had a lot of incidents and did a lot of damage as a rookie in that first season, whereas Lawson has just come in and been very consistent and solid. I wouldn't say like Lawson's been like unbelievable speed and looking like, future world champion. He's just been a really consistent driver, and that's why he's been rewarded with the points that he has got.
Absolutely. Let's now go to Daniel Ricciardo and explore why he has been locked in for 2024. I don't think there's anyone in this world that underestimates well, actually, no, there probably is, because there are people that question why Daniel Ricciardo has been locked in for next year. But his marketing pull is one that I'm not sure there's many drivers, barring Lewis Hamilton perhaps, that would bring as much to a team off track than Daniel Ricciardo. He is so well loved across the entirety of the planet. But not just that, he is a race winner. We have to keep reminding people he is a multiple race winner. And recency bias, I think, in a lot of ways plays on a lot of people's minds. And the last couple of seasons he had at McLaren, and it sticks in my mind as well. There is, of course, that element of doubt of, okay, has he sort of fallen off now, and he only sort of delivers in a car that is specific to his needs. But in the very brief amount of time he's been in the Alphatauri, he looked all right. We don't know his pace right now, do we? We don't know how quick he's going to be compared to Yuki Tsunoda when he's properly settled in. Has the breaking of the hand actually played into his hands somewhat, because they haven't been able to measure him? So they right, we got to lock him in for next year and properly see what he can do over the course of a whole season. Who knows?
Despite the fact that there is talk of him being a bit, if you say like recency bias, the anti-recency bias of how he did at McLaren, and saying he might not be all that anymore, he's still like a good benchmark. And I think that's why it's been a case of Daniel Ricciardo's in the seat, and then it's between Lawson and Tsunoda who gets that next seat. Because if Tsunoda and Lawson go against each other, you could find yourself in that situation of, even though Yuki's been in for a few years, but maybe like Mick Schumacher and Mazepin, where they were two rookies, and you're like, how do we know if that Haas is any good or not? Because they might just both be struggling and new. Yeah, we've not had enough of a stint really to see how good anyone is, other than Nick de Vries, who wasn't very good. Sorry, Nick.
Sorry, Nick, indeed. But yeah, I think that sort of sums up why Daniel Ricciardo's probably been locked in. I guess as well, it takes the pressure off him a little bit coming back after his injury, whenever that might be. Austin, hopefully. Even if it takes him a few more races to, just get through that whole rehabilitation phase and sort of, for his hand to be properly ready again. And finally, why hasn't Liam Lawson been locked in? And what is next for the young superstar that everybody is crowning him after a few races? I was going to say, I would definitely be on the grid in 2025, but I don't think you can ever say definitely at this sort of level, especially when there are 20 seats and nothing is guaranteed in Formula One, because there has to be a space at the inn for someone to come in. You look at, right, is he going to go to Alphatauri? Well, but if Yuki's waiting until 2026, are Alphatauri going to keep him for another year in 25, or does Yuki then have a year off and then come back in 26? There's plenty of questions around that, and probably the main vacancy will be Yuki Tsunoda, because I don't see Alonso or Stroll jogging on in 25, and then Yuki can go in a year early, and then it's clear as day as to where Liam Lawson's going to go. There's no guarantees, is there?
No, and that is the beauty and pain of Formula One in equal measures, that no one is 100% safe. And it's a shame for Lawson, because he's the talk of F1 at the moment and how brilliant he's doing. But say, Daniel Ricciardo comes back, does a decent job, then Lawson has a year out. In a year's time, the talk won't be, oh, no, but do you remember Lawson finished 9th at Singapore? It would be, I don't know, there'll be someone doing bits in F2 that we're like, oh, he's amazing, he deserves a seat. It's so brutal how you need to peak at the right times. And harsh for Lawson, you can argue that he probably has, because he's been given the talk of the Alphatauri seat was, well, actually, he didn't have pressure, but he had pressure in the sense of this is his time to show what he can do. And he's done a very good job. But unfortunately, it's not enough for Alphatauri.
Not for Alphatauri. For Williams, we don't know. We don't know what's going to sort of be on the horizon there, and whether that's a shot in the dark for Lawson. But yeah, you go to 25, and all of a sudden that hype that you say, Tommy, the narrative does change very quickly. you then question, well, why hasn't he been picked over Yuki Tsunoda? Like we say about this Honda deal and yada, yada, yada. But why aren't Red Bull investing in him or pushing harder to get him in the seat earlier when he could be the future of Red Bull in years to come? Especially knowing that there is this, there could be complications of getting him on the grid full stop.
I do wonder how much the fact that Max Verstappen is still very young. Lawson, he's not wildly younger than Max Verstappen. It does feel like Max is going to be there forever. So I think that has changed the whole prospect of the Alphatauri seat. And I think a lot of it as well is just the fact that they will be a bit more of their own team next year. The way that team is going, particularly with the Daniel Ricciardo coming in, does seem like they're not. It's not 100% like this is the junior team. We put the kids in and hope they get to the Red Bull seat. It's more like being their own team and scoring a good amount of points. So it's very unfortunate for Lawson. He's done a very good job. He's done all he can, really. But Formula One, there's so many different sides to it, unfortunately.
And finally, we did a poll over on our YouTube community where thousands of you have voted, and we asked which of these drivers deserves the Alphatauri seat the most. 15% reckon Daniel Ricciardo, 23% reckon Tsunoda, and 62% have voted Liam Lawson, which I mean, Liam's doing great, but I feel there's an element of momentum, hype, and recency bias going on for that level of percentage going on to be the driver that most deserves this. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to this chat around the Alphatauri seat drama. Tommy, what are your final thoughts?
Don't underestimate Yuki Tsunoda.
Oh, here it is. The fanboy has come out once again. I knew it would come out eventually. And my final thoughts are, congratulations, Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda. Liam, you'll be on the F1 grid full-time soon, I'm sure. Maybe. Fingers crossed. Bye!
Bye!